I called my mom ugly and it's my biggest regret to this day. I can't remember how old I was, but probably between 5 to 8 years old. My mom was on sick leave because she had been burnt out. It was me, my older sister and my mom at home. We were all watching TV, kinda crammed up in our small couch. My mom was laying on her side and me and my sister were sitting next to each other. I looked at my mom and asked her if she wasn't wearing makeup. She said no, and I regretfully remember that I thought I was being funny when I replied with "You look so ugly." I also remember with horror that my mom started crying. She wasn't mad. She didn't say anything, she just cried silently. I looked at my sister and she kind of shook her head at me as if saying, "No, you can't say that. This is the worst memory of my life. I hate myself every time it comes to mind. I wish I could erase this from my memory." Context: when I was a kid, I was very shy and sometimes didn't speak to people at all. I kind of struggled around people and just how to fit in, act normal. I was a good kid, but I had a lot of anxiety at a very early age and was also very sensitive. I would say or do things that I picked up from my peers, because I thought that was normal or even cool. Then I would get in trouble and people were disappointed in me and I would feel really bad. Why could I never get things right? Is there something wrong with me? I just struggled a lot with how to be a human. I don't know if my lacking behavior skills had anything to do with why I called my mom ugly, but no matter the reason, I hope I can forgive myself one day. It is my deepest regret and a dark memory that I have never shared with anyone. My dad blames my brother for the car crash, but it was me. I've got to confess something that's been eating away at me for a while now. When I was 18, I crashed my dad's car, but here's the kicker. To this day, my dad thinks it was my brother. Let me set the scene for you. It was late at night, and I was out with some friends, cruising around town in my dad's car. I made a stupid mistake, took a turn too fast, and ended up crashing into a lamppost. Classic teenager move, right? But instead of owning up to it, I panicked and ran. I left the scene, hoping nobody would find out it was me. And you know what? They didn't. Instead, my dad found the wrecked car the next morning and immediately assumed it was my brother's doing. Now, my brother isn't exactly known for his stellar driving skills, so it wasn't much of a stretch for my dad to believe it was him. But deep down, I knew the truth, and the guilt has been eating away at me ever since. It's been 2 years, and my dad still blames my brother for the crash. Every time he brings it up, I can't help but feel like a total fraud. My brother doesn't deserve to take the fall for my mistake, but I've been too much of a coward to come clean. So, why am I telling you all this? Because I can't keep living with this lie weighing me down. My brother doesn't deserve to be blamed for something he didn't do, and my dad deserves to know the truth, even if it means facing the consequences of my actions. To my dad, if you ever read this, which I doubt, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for lying to you and letting you believe that my brother was responsible for the crash. And to my brother, I'm sorry for letting you take the fall for my mistake. You deserve better. What made you and your last partner break up? Spend 8 years giving her everything she wanted and while getting nothing in return. No matter what I was going through, it was always about her. My grandmother, who raised me, got diagnosed with cancer for the 4th time and I got told she wasn't going to make it through chemo. I sat by her bedside for 8 days while she withered away. My ex didn't console me. Come to the hospital. Nothing. After she passed and I went home to my ex, she didn't comfort me. Just complained that I was gone for so long and didn't need to be. When the memorial service came, she refused to go even though I had to give a eulogy that I barely made it through. I was a hollow shell when I got home after the funeral. She looked at me in my eyes the minute I walked in and said, "What are we going to eat tonight?" I snapped and told her to get out, packed her shit while she called me every name. In the book and threw her out back her mom place. 5 months into the breakup, I found out she was cheating on me for 3 years. And I couldn't have been happier knowing I did the right thing and that my grandma would have been proud of me for finally sticking up for myself.
The Twilight Garden. In the twilight hours, I stumbled upon a hidden garden nestled between the towering buildings of the city. Intrigued by its ethereal glow, I stepped inside and was enveloped by an otherworldly atmosphere. The air was filled with the scent of exotic flowers, their petals shimmering with an iridescent light. I wandered through the garden, marveling at the strange and beautiful sights that surrounded me. As I reached out to touch a particularly vibrant bloom, I felt a sudden shift in the air. In an instant, the world around me seemed to blur and warp, and I found myself standing in a place that was both familiar and alien. In this surreal landscape, time seemed to stand still, and I felt a sense of peace wash over me. It was a moment of pure magic, a fleeting glimpse into a world beyond the ordinary.
What's your one deep secret that you won't tell anyone? One Christmas, I was 11 years old and knew that Santa wasn't real, but for my 9-year-old brother, the fantasy was very much alive and good. We shared a room, and my brother woke up on Christmas morning and looked confused that Santa had not eaten the Kit Kat that had been left out. He went quiet, and I could see that he was working the facts through in his head. When he wasn't looking, I ate the Kit Kat and showed him the wrapper and claimed he imagined seeing the wrapper unopened. This was 26 years ago, and I have not told him in case he works out. Santa is not real.
I recently touched a girl's boobs, and I became the happiest man alive. Finally touched some boobs recently. It started around last year, around our junior year in high school. Me and my friends made plans to go to a strip club when we all turned 18. Fast forward to a year later, we all finally turned 18, so we made plans to go to our local strip club. We called the place and asked what age is okay to enter. The moment they said 18, we immediately started making a plan so our parents wouldn't find out. We have this one friend who has a very strict mom who puts life 360 on him, so we found a loophole. Not really a loophole, more like we just let his phone die. 'Cause if the phone dies, the phone remains in the last location it was before it died. So in my friend's case, his location remained in my friend's house. Meanwhile, my only worrying was to turn my card money into cash so my mom wouldn't see my spending history. A week later, the day finally came. We drove over there. It was a 25 to 30-minute drive. After parking and getting off my friend's car, we headed to the entrance. And right before I opened those doors, I announced to my friends, and the Lord said, "Let there be light." We were greeted by a young woman behind a counter, and behind her, we could already see the flashing lights, the dark rooms, the strippers, and the loud music too. After checking our IDs and going in, we sat in awkward silence for the first 10 to 15 minutes. After, one of my friends who we'll call BTW walked up and paid a stripper to dance on him. And all I gotta say was that motherfucker was locked in, straight face, straight posture, staring and watching the performance. After the performance, the stripper offers him a private lap dance in the VIP room. After a while, I too was offered one. I took it. The stripper seemed very nice. I remember her name was Jasmine. She was a young blonde woman, and she was very tall. Anyways, we had a small talk and introduced ourselves. She started by telling me to grab her massive melons, so I did without hesitation. I started playing with them and even kissing them too. I kid you not. While this was happening, Ludwig van Beethoven's Ode to Joy, the best part, started blasting in my head as I'm gripping on her melons. And from there, I was the world's happiest man alive. To be exact, she also gave me the good boy treatment. She kissed my forehead and put my head on her chest, as she proceeds to call me a sweet boy, and from there, I knew I won. Ode to Joy kept playing in my head. This was quite an unforgettable night. Looked up boobs in 3rd grade and got everyone's iPad taken away. I don't think I've told anyone this before because it's so embarrassing, LOL. When I was in 3rd grade, we had school iPads that everyone in class would use. At the time, these iPads didn't have school controls on them, so you could almost search up anything on them. One day, we had indoor playtime because it was raining, so I went to the iPad station and played some games. I realized that I was the only one on the iPads and no one was paying attention, so I looked upwards like boobs and naked boobs. Me being the dumb kid I didn't know how to delete search history, so I just turned off the iPads and walked away. Like one day later, the teacher had a class meeting talking about how someone looked up inappropriate things and asked if anyone knew who did it. Literally no one saw me or could remember cause we all had peanut brains.